So thanks for joining the session on OpenShift Dedicated and Google Cloud Platform. I know it's the last session, so we'll try to keep it as quickly as we can. We'll go through this, but thank you really for coming. I think we didn't expect this many people to show up, so we are thrilled actually. We thought it's going to be just the two of us, and we know each other for a long time, and we don't want to spend any more time together. Anyway. So welcome to OpenShift Summit, right? It really looks like OpenShift Summit. We've been making a whole lot of announcements. So what I want to do is, talk about OpenShift Dedicated. How many people here know or heard about OpenShift Dedicated? Okay, that's actually slightly better. So we haven't been really promoting this. This is an offering that we launched last year, the beginning of last year, and we've been running in production for the last 16 months now. So what we'll be doing is talking about OpenShift Dedicated and then talk about Google Cloud. Google's been a great partner of ours for I think 4 years now. We've been running RHEL on Google Cloud for more than 4 years. We've been running OpenShift on it for more than 2 years now, and we launched Dedicated on Google end of last year. So just want to talk about that. So I'll get started here. So this is more for people that don't know what OpenShift is and don't know the multiple offerings that we have. I think everybody here probably knows about it, but if they don't know, we did announce on this Tuesday, OpenShift Online, the next generation of OpenShift Online, which went GA. So you can actually go to OpenShift.com and sign up for an OpenShift account that's based on Kubernetes and Docker. It's the world's first multi-tenant Kubernetes solution or platform that has been launched. OpenShift Dedicated think of OpenShift Dedicated as a single tenant OpenShift that's managed and operated by Red Hat in a public cloud. And we have OpenShift Container Platform that actually is self-managed. The difference between Dedicated and Container Platform is Dedicated is single tenant managed by Red Hat. Container Platform is managed by the customer. So this slide, actually, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this slide. You've seen it. So what you haven't seen is what we have on red and green in the very left of the slide, where we tell you what we manage. So when you get Dedicated, what happens is we manage the entire OpenShift platform for you. The only thing that you need to manage really is the application that's running on OpenShift. That's still your responsibility. We are responsible for the upgrades to the platform. We're responsible for upgrading it from 3.2 to 3.3 or 3.3 to 3.3.1, whatever upgrades comes. All the security updates that happen at an operating system level, all of those things are done by Red Hat. But the customer is still responsible for managing and operating their application. So making sure your application is highly available, and we have a bunch of reference documents on how to run your application, how to do deployments, and all of those things. But you still have to make sure that your application is running, and that's your responsibility. And our support will help you with that, and Kubernetes and all the self-healing mechanisms that we have within Kubernetes will help you with that as well. But it's still your responsibility or a customer's responsibility for running the application. So this is kind of slide that our marketing group put together, which is kind of what does OpenShift do, right? It's the same thing. We take care of the OpenShift support subscription. We even take care of the middleware that runs in, right? So all the middleware products that we have, like JBoss, Fuse, EAP, all of those things run on top of OpenShift. BRMS, BPMS, all of them run on top of OpenShift Dedicated. So all of those things still, are responsibility of Red Hat. So if you have a new image of EAP that comes in, we'll actually make sure that's getting upgraded. The only thing you're responsible again is for app development. While in a traditional model, if you were to do it on-premise, you're really responsible for pretty much everything. So that's just telling you, how you can free up resources for app development, how you can actually go faster to the market, right? Everybody knows about digital transformation and how, the business value of expediting the process, the applications that you guys are building. And I think one differentiator here is even if you're using a public cloud provider, you still are responsible for everything from the operating system upward, right? So the difference here is, even though it runs on a public cloud, we take care of all of those things for you. So what are the main features of OpenShift Dedicated, right? I think this OpenShift Dedicated, being based on OpenShift version 3 already inherits all the features that are there in OpenShift Container Platform. On top of that, what are the things you're getting, right? One is you get an isolated public platform. It's professionally managed, right? We are actually having operators that are working with developers and Scrum teams, so we know, what's happening with the product, what are the updates that are coming, and we actually test this like many times over. You get our Red Hat support. You get connect and extend local services. So if you have, let's say, an Oracle database in your data center and you want to connect it, we actually can connect it through the VPC, VPN mechanisms that all of the cloud providers have. We also pretty much support in all regions. So for example, all the cloud providers, with Google, we actually support all of the regions they have, and they've been great in adding a lot more regions, and we support all of those regions. So if you want to run something in Singapore, you can run it there. If you want to run it in Tokyo, same kind of thing. So if you want to be close to the customer or close to your developers, that's something that's possible. And it's completely built on open standards. It's open source. Everything that we do here is open source. In fact, our ops team basically even open sources all of the ops repositories and all of the scripts that we run. So you actually can, we have a lot of OCP customers, OpenShift Container Platform customers that use those scripts. So this is I want to talk about two things in this slide. One is, talk about telco customer that's using OpenShift Dedicated. So they have their own digital store where actually they have all the activations. They sell phones. They sell all of those things. They use OpenShift Dedicated, and this has been a really good success story for us. They release software every day. In fact, they do 11 deployments a day versus one deployment they used to do every 2 weeks. And they have, since it's like all of the things that happen in think of a web store, right? You have Samsung Galaxy 8 coming, iPhone 8, all of those things. They got to keep changing things all the time, and the business is really demanding in how to make this very efficient store. So they actually run this. They're also, both the ops and the dev teams are more satisfied because they get the resources they want. There is no more infighting, right? It's not that they try to develop a DevOps process. It's just that DevOps happened because you removed all of the friction between dev and ops by providing a platform that's on demand and that's completely managed. We also moved them from versions. I think one of the things that we've heard from customers, right? If you really want to get the benefit of OpenShift, you want to be on the latest version of OpenShift. And we actually release software every 3 months. So another thing that, they actually get seamless upgrades. They're continuing to move, and we have moved them to 3.4 and, moving next scheduling for 3.5. They've already migrated 121 applications to OpenShift, and they've been a customer for, I think, less than 6 months. So that's, again, talks about, giving developers a platform that's agile, that's nimble, that gives self-service. If they like it, they make a lot of things happen. And 30% cost savings over their on-premise solutions, just on the infrastructure alone. They haven't even accounted for the people, because the people still are part of the organization. It's just 30%. They've already seen a realization of 30% cost savings. The second thing I want to talk about is the ROI summary. This is a great paper that Martin on our marketing team worked with IDC to build. This is a study of multiple customers of OpenShift that have deployed it on-premise. And the benefits of Dedicated are actually much more than this, but this is just for somebody that put it out in their data center. They had a 531% ROI over 5 years. Benefit from developer is 1.29 million. And I think the biggest thing is, you don't have to wait for years to get your payback. They got it in 8 months. In 8 months, so I think it's a very easy sell, right? And that's probably a testament to all the customers that are here. The benefits that you realize of OpenShift come out really quickly within the first year. And a bunch of other productivity for 100 developers, right? What is the business productivity, the IT productivity gains? So this is something that's available on our website. If you go to OpenShift.com, just search for ROI summary, and you will get this. And you can also look it up on our Twitter feed. We actually have it as a pinned tweet there. So now I want to talk about Google and Red Hat, right? So you guys, we've been working together for more than 4 years, right? Since Google Cloud's launch, RHEL has been running there. And I don't know, how many of you are users of OpenShift 2 here? Any users of OpenShift 2? So we have one person, okay. We have a couple of people that have run OpenShift 2. So I think OpenShift 2 was we had our own broker. We had our own gears, as we called the containers at the time. So OpenShift's been there for 6 years now, and we had our own version of OpenShift, which had our own container technology, own orchestration layer. And at the time that we actually, Red Hat, I don't know if you guys remember back in September of 2013, we actually recognized that Docker was a really important thing, and we were the first large enterprise to embrace Docker. At the same time, we were actually going to re-architect our whole platform on Docker. And we were looking for an orchestration technology when Google approached us and talked about what they were going to do with Kubernetes. And actually, that's how we started working with Google in, I would say, since the founding of Kubernetes. And we, between Google and Red Hat, you can look at the contribution, right? We actually contribute pretty much, 60, 70%, 65% of the code to Kubernetes. So you actually get most of Kubernetes from us, and we do the same thing on a Docker side. We are the largest external contributor to Docker from Red Hat. So we've had a great relationship with Google, and we have been working with them on getting all our products run on Google Cloud. And since we've announced OpenShift Dedicated on Google, there's been a lot of attraction to that offering, especially because of the things that Google's been doing on their cloud, the investments they've been making, the machine learning and artificial intelligence, and all of those capabilities with TensorFlow and other things that they've been building. So what I want to do is hand over to Brandon, and Brandon, take over and tell us about Google Cloud.
Much appreciated. So I'm going to spend most of my, try and get through let me make sure. I want to get this through a little bit quickly, because thankfully we don't have 150 people, so we could probably get to questions if we move quickly. What I want to give you guys a sense of, I think you've got a good idea of what's going on in the OpenShift in your application. So I'm going to spend most of the time not at the application layer, but what it's running on, and then other additional services that once the application's running can supercharge that application. So that's kind of the direction we're going to go through, and how it exists and why. So I'll move through these relatively quickly. Some history. Does anyone run anything on Google Cloud Platform today in the room? Perfect. So I'll assume, generally speaking, except for the great man in the beard in the back, that this is probably relatively new to you. So one of the things education-wise, and if you came down to some coding with us, we're very aware that our biggest challenge largely is just people coming and using it, because almost anyone, did any code labs at our booth? Okay, for all of you, thank you. And all new. So I think that's, a lot of it's just an awareness question, not of that we can do it, but just, we actually have it. So spend a little bit of time there. To think about, the first thing to understand is, from Google's standpoint, is our infrastructure itself, first off, is based on containers and has been since, 10, 12 years ago. And what that means is anything and everything that you would run on Google runs in a container, including VMs. So the container is the baseline platform in which we are able to run. Now, every one of these products touch 1 billion users a day, right? So we're in the process, really, of building an amazing platform, amazing places for people to do the development and run their infrastructure. I'll give you the background in terms of what we're delivering. So Google runs everything in containers, all of these. We launch about 2 billion containers a week, and then those are all managed. So I think it's important to understand, why does that matter? Because you're like, great, more containers, more numbers, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. So let me give you some of the ideas of what happens when you put a VM, for example, in a container, right? By the way, this is, when we say Google Cloud, this is marketing required, I put this in here. This is when we say Google Cloud, these are the pieces that fit in it. So Google Cloud Platform you develop on, you have all your APIs. They sit on top of G Suite if you like Gmail, and all of the suite there, and you can deliver it out through Android, Chrome, et cetera. Cool. So there's probably 4 ways, or 4 primary places that we're seeing all of our customers come to us for. One, they're getting on an innovation curve that they don't get anywhere else. And hopefully when you walk away from there, that's something you feel pretty comfortable, and I'll put some validation as to why that is. They come to us for data, because we handle, we process, we bring insights out of data faster, more efficiently, and more uniquely than anyone else can. We can deliver new apps faster, as we're partnering really closely with Red Hat to make sure you can develop the applications quickly, and then you can quickly both scale them if you need to, globally if you need to, and then you get services underneath them to move you forward so those applications get supercharged. And then we spend a lot of time, energy, and resources to make sure we deliver best-in-class support. So as Sathish had gone through from OpenShift Dedicated, we have an entire team that sits behind them and makes sure that the infrastructure is running great. If they have any questions, we're locked out like this. We have help desks that go back and forth to make sure that everything runs perfectly for our customers. So that said, let's walk through why OpenShift Dedicated, why you'd run it on Google. Because again, the advantage is you can run it anywhere. That's why you would go to the platform. It allows you to run on any platform. So why there? So let's first off this. Some things are just better together. Let's be honest, James Kirk, Spock, it doesn't matter what age, when, they're always better together. Milk and chocolate chip cookies are awesome. Whether you want to dunk them or guzzle the milk after you have a really dry mouth, they're delicious. And your chocolate and peanut butter, same way. So let's say why. When you look at kind of a back and forth standpoint, Red Hat clearly has leadership in open source in the enterprise, right? And while we spend a lot of time and we have amazing infrastructure, we clearly do not have the years and years of experience or the customer base that Red Hat does and the experience of delivering those unique things to customers they do. Deep customer relationships and obviously a very trusted partner, clearly, as you guys highlight. On the flip side, we have deep experience with containers, having run containers for 12 years, as you said, at scale. We've only done everything in the cloud, so that's the only way we know is our data center. A data center is a machine. A machine is a data center. They're one and the same as far as we see them. And then the last one that's really a really great place is that data piece and the machine learning. So let me jump on that. It sits on it, believe it or not, containers still all sit in VMs. Believe it or not, containers still sit on machines. So while serverless has got no servers, it does run on servers. So we should probably spend a little bit of time of why performance is different. So let's go through a couple things that matter to you as a developer. First off, really straightforward thing is VM boot time. Container boots faster. Not surprisingly, a VM in a container boots a lot faster than if you try and do that just on its own. So this is great when you're going from a development standpoint. This is really good in terms of if you're scaling a large number of stuff. And it's most awesome when you're doing test and dev. So let's spend some time there. In a test dev standpoint, obviously, the more you ramp up and down, those little pieces matter a lot. And we'll get into why. We do things, little thing behind the scenes called live migration. So when you have to patch a host, you might need to move off. So when we found Heartbleed, and Google discovered it, we're able to patch those underlying hosts, patch everything underneath, and move you live to somewhere else. The other thing is nice from a performance standpoint. Anyone run anything on a public cloud? Anyone willing to admit they run something on a public cloud that's not Google? You can do it. Raise your hand, who runs AWS? You know you want to. There we go. Anyone ever dealt with anything, anyone familiar with the term noisy neighbor? Couple. Okay, so the term noisy neighbor happens when Netflix shows up on your VM and you don't know it's Netflix, but you're like, oh my gosh, my performance is terrible, but I have no access to the underlying host. So what do? Well, if your VM's running in a container and Netflix shows up, you know what I do? I'll just move you to another host. Because the performance, and they're eating up the network, I'm able to move you to another host in the same zone, all the above, right? But your performance is significantly better there. So we can do the live migration, no operational overhead, and again, that's why you run them in infrastructure. I'm checking on my time. Oh, I got so much time. You have so much time with me. Secondarily, persistent disk. So we have a very different network, differentiated network on the back. And what that means is you can attach up to 128 volumes. This means you can put, from an OpenShift standpoint, what this means is you can put very large clusters, right? And the bigger the cluster, the more efficient you can pack it, the more efficient you can run it, et cetera, right? And so this is an order of magnitude. It's probably 2 or 3x larger than any other public cloud. Same with the amount of terabytes of disk, persistent disk you can attach to it. We've got obviously dynamic sizing, which is really nice, and encrypted by default, either your keys or ours. So bring your own keys, encrypt all you want. Everything at Google on our platform is encrypted at transit and at rest. So then we do have a price. For these are the other cloud workloads and everything and underlying VMs to give you a sense. For those of you that have not run something in a public cloud, you have to choose the sizing and the volume almost every time you go in and choose it. So I want a 16-way machine, but especially in this space, as you think about it, what happens when you go to 16-way to next step is a 32-way? Well, what happens when you really only need 18 cores? Oops, you got waste on the RAM or on the CPU side, or you might have RAM, or you might need to adjust this. This is a very, very common problem in predefined machine types. So at Google, for those of you that went there and you may have done this, you can choose your cores and choose your memory, and you get exactly the right size every time. You only pay for what you use. However, there's other very nice things like, hey, by the way, if you run a VM for the entire month, rather than prepaying for stuff, what we're going to say is, that's excellent. You ran it for the whole month. We're going to give you a discount. So you can kind of get an idea of here. It might be a little bit of an eye chart. So just think of it this way. If I have a VM and I run it the whole month, Google's going to give me a 40% discount off the base rate. And then it'll come in on a stepwise function. However, it's not just that. We also like the game of Tetris. So let me explain what you're seeing here. There's a sustained use discount. If you run it for the entire month, you get the 40% discount. But what happens if, hey, you're doing a bunch of test dev, right? In that case, you're going to have a bunch of, like, say, 4U instances. You turn them on, you turn them off, turn them on, turn them off. Well, what this is, if you look here at the Tetris chart here, those are each for perhaps a 4U instance that you've turned on and off, 4 different ones, 5 different ones. What we do is that's your actual use. That's what it would look like if you were paying per VM. What we do is at the end of the month, we create inferred instances. So we take it, we stack them. You'll see we split them up down below, and then we shove them together. And what you'll see, let me do this. Down here, you ran no VM for the month, but we took 1 and 3. Like, excellent, you ran that the whole month. We're going to put those together and give you a 40% discount. Because guess what? We're running them in containers, and we just packed them. So if that's how we do it, your price should look like my price, right? Maybe you shouldn't have a PhD in figuring out whether you should have an RI or someone else figuring out exactly how you handle a spot instance. But speaking of spot instances, do I get there? Oh, you didn't even get spot instances. So we also have preemptible VMs. We'll give you an 80% discount if you want to run your workload in a way that in 60 seconds we could take it away. So do not put production work cases in a preemptible VM. That's public announcement, right? But you know exactly what it costs. So we'll give you an 80% discount on that if you want to use a preemptible VM. So likewise, this is kind of, we've done a bunch of analysis, and you kind of look at what this might look like from a cost standpoint. We've heard you guys, and we say, hey, one of us, we really were in Google, and we're willing to make a committed use, but we kind of would be nice if, maybe 6 months from now, I had a 4U instance, but I don't really want to buy a 4U instance for an entire 3 years on a machine type that's going to get old, that I'm going to be stuck to. I mean, no one's ever done that, but in theory, if you had written that problem, that's not a good place to be. What you really want to buy is, I want to make a commitment to that, but I want to be able to move those CPUs anywhere I want. Might need to run them over in Europe, or I might need to run them in a zone, or I might need to go from a 4-way to a 32-way machine. Excellent. We'll give you a discount if you just want to commit to the long term, but you can run it any way, any shape, any way you want, right? So let's go there. So that's kind of baseline. Think of that as this is the world that you are running on if you're running OpenShift, Dedicated or Enterprise or any version of OpenShift or any Red Hat product on Google. That's kind of what you see. Secondarily, let's go into what else this is nice. We have a little thing called a global network. We spend a little bit of money on a network because we have this little thing called YouTube and search. So we've now externalized that for everyone. So no one has ever heard the most important thing is, in terms of yours, is to have a data center everywhere you could possibly have it, right? Doesn't matter how big it is, just as long as I stamped it out in every possible place in the world. Well, except the thing is that a user, right? The most important thing to the user is the number of hops on the internet. It's not how close you are. Like, if I jump on the internet and I have to go from South America to US to back because we don't know how to do routing or we don't have any of that, that's going to still slow you down. So we have network edge presences everywhere, and we own all of this network, right? So we own the dark fiber that connects our data centers. We have a global load balancer. Yes, a global load balancer. Anywhere it hits, on the edge, any one of these points of presence, which are hundreds of points of presence that are built out for YouTube now on our cloud platform, customer goes ISP, 1 hop hits Google Network, 1 hop on the dark fiber to your data center or to your OpenShift workload, 1 hop back right to the customer. 4 hops. Always only 4 hops, and we're doing all the directing from anywhere on the edge that it hits anywhere in the globe, right? So, but we do care because it does matter that you have a bunch of, oh, there's our global load balancer. So, million queries per second, no warming time, so you don't have to call up your provider and say, I'm going to have a high traffic load. Can you please make sure you put a bunch of HA proxies in front of them, name something else. Perfect, please do this. No. Always there, always available on every point in the world, right in front of your application. The other thing is, yes, we have a large number. So this is a little bit of an eye chart to be totally transparent. You can see a few of these. Let me do it this way. The purple are regions and zones that we already have, right? These are up and running, so we have good global coverage. However, in the next 12 months, we're also going to be opening ones in the US. We're at Sao Paulo, Finland, Frankfurt, Netherlands, London, Montreal. Someone asked for Montreal. Canada, done. Sydney, Singapore, and Mumbai. The other part is when you get OpenShift, you get access to all the APIs and all the data pieces that you would get. And let me spend a little bit of time. So this is kind of how they all come together. We've talked a lot about the Red Hat OpenShift, how that fits. It runs on top of our cloud platform. You get the services anywhere. A nice part, and something I would encourage you to spend a lot of time looking at, is the work that we're doing with Red Hat around the Open Service Broker API, right? This means that you can have access to the services, both Google and any provider that works together with us, and there's a bunch of them. Their services are then extensible out of OpenShift anywhere in the globe. So they're consistent, integrated, easy to use, same credentials, all of the above. This has been something that's been a challenge kind of across the industry, and this is one we're working with a large number of providers together with, so you can take a look at that. That'll be coming through, and if you're curious how that works, we're working together with Red Hat in the Kubernetes community. You can look upstream, see where it's headed. It should be towards the end of year. You can see exactly when that'll land inside of OpenShift. And that is that, and I have ended with some time for about 10 minutes for questions. It is for the same instance. So like we wouldn't aggregate an 8U instance and a 4U instance. The intention is because we do bin packing because the VM sits in a container. If it's the same size, it ends up overall in Google looking the same from a packing standpoint on that. So think of it as a 4U instance, as long as it's like the same kind of 4U instance. Yeah, we'll pack that together for you and then give the discount. Overall, something you should expect, and this is all, we have a pricing calculator and can take a look at it. Most of our customers seeing about on the core infrastructure, so the VM base level, see about a 40-ish% price performance of Google over other providers. Right, so those you'd end up, so if you think about that, you'd on and off for about 12 hours on, 12 hours off, you kind of walk that through for the entire month, and those would be aggregated into roughly maybe a 50%, and then we'd apply that margin at a 50% consistent utilization number. We do have an offering that's called Google Container Engine, that's correct. But it doesn't have, let me go back into this. I'll get there, but it's worth having a slide to speak to this. Yeah, so when you look at this, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here in particular. So we'll have like storage registry, like networking, but there's a lot of some of the work here, a lot of the cluster services and then everything here, of course, right? In terms of the deployment, the CI/CD, and everything. That's a full platform when you come to it. But yeah, so high level there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so think of it as GKE is like
vanilla Kubernetes.
Sorry, yeah. So yeah, think of with OpenShift we manage Kubernetes. So there is no configuration that you're doing on Kubernetes. While GKE you'll have to do some of those things. But you can actually move your OpenShift container platform that's on-premise and move it to Google Cloud, and you can manage it on your own. But you will run it on GCE, not GKE.
Cluster federation is still...
It's still work in progress.
It's a work in progress. So it's something like, that was kind of, I think cluster federation will be in 1.7.
Yeah, it's in September timeframe. So
September. When that's out, then I think it's a very valid question. It is one that we talk about all the time on how we see that working for everyone. It's a good question. I don't think we have a...
I don't... there are a few technical challenges just because of the access that you have, because you're like a cluster admin and you can do a lot of things on OpenShift on-premise. versus on GKE, there may be some things that you may not be able to do, but in theory, they are the same Kubernetes, and it should be possible, right? But with software, everything is possible, but it requires a little bit of work to make it happen. But I think we'll be able to address it, answer this question with a more definitive answer when we launch the service broker, because it's possible it may not come on day one, but it's something that will be in the roadmap of the federation, roadmap of the federation.
Yes.
Second?
Stackdriver, our monitoring solution.
Oh, yeah. So we already have a few blogs where we have shown how OpenShift Dedicated integrates with Google services. So if you go to blog.openshift.com, you'll find some of those integrations. So those integrations, even without the service broker, exist and work. It's just that you may have to do a bunch of manual configuration to make that happen, and we have outlined those steps. Versus when we get the service broker, then it's much easier because these are just services in a catalog that you can pre-select and the binding happens automatically.
Yeah. They work really well together. There might be a little bit of extra work today than there will be when we get to the open service broker. And then it's just an API to API. And API, it'll be consistent API so that you handle things like credentialing and security and everything the same. And that you can do it today, it's just a little bit of extra work, and we do it across Stackdriver is obviously a big one, all the SQL stuff, Spanner, which is our global database, the world's largest database, gives you SQL syntax with NoSQL scale. So all those services are ones. BigQuery, our data warehouse, is all everything integrated, and so we do that regularly on the OpenShift roadshows we do with Red Hat. So we'll do roadshows where we'll get you guys up and running, comfortable with OpenShift, along with Google services, and you work with both in a day. We'll actually probably be back, I think we're going to be back in end of this quarter, beginning of next quarter in Boston. So if you're in Boston, for some of you. Otherwise, we're doing those kind of global pretty regularly through the second half of the year. Already did a number of them in the first half.
Yeah, and these are hands-on labs. So if you're a developer, it'll be a great lab for you because we'll actually show you how to deploy an application, how to do the integration, all of those things.
Perfect. And then I'm going to bring up some things you guys all have. We also have something for you to get started if you want. Shift. Perfect. There we go. So there's the reference architecture and everything also for OpenShift on GCP. You can Google it. If you want me to Google that for you, let me know. And what you'll find is we just launched this week is a little test drive. So if you want to get started in and working on it, there's multiple ways. There's OpenShift Dedicated on GCP. Ask Red Hat and your Red Hat wrap and everything. That's up and running. If you just want to come and play with it, all of these will feel the exact same. So they all run the same. There's just some different aspects for you to jump in and get your hands wet, hands dirty on it. So this is OpenShift Run on GCP. You're off and running. It'll set up an environment for you, and you get a couple days to play with it, and then you can work with Red Hat if that's working well for you. Perfect. You're off and running. So it's real good for people just kind of get what's it look like without going through all the process necessarily of having to set it up. It's just for a dev that goes in and says, now I see how it works. So just some other stuff that we're up to.
So in your example, you're assuming that node that you have on OpenShift and on Google Cloud is part of OpenShift cluster that you're running on-premise. His question is, it's a completely different Kubernetes that is running. Can I have something that orchestrates between one Kubernetes on OpenShift and another Kubernetes on GKE?
Yeah. So that thing, and then if you're looking for an HA, so that's the other thing if you're doing multiple, again, back to where you're doing federation, something we've learned in seeing lots and running billions of containers is your network between data centers pretty dang important. So certainly that's something to be looking at if you're trying to run them in an HA constantly load balance space. So if you wanted to run in two zones in Google, obviously that dark fiber, the connectivity between the zones, regions, do my terms correctly, the connectivity between the regions would be particularly differentiated. So certainly if you're looking for an HA cluster of OpenShift, that we know it works, that Google's a pretty dang good fit for that. So good. Well, I'm between you and probably some people in a plane and or a beer. So, guys, I really do appreciate the time. If you have any questions, I'll be here for a little bit. And thank you.
Yeah, same
And
here.
thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.